Claire, why are you so obsessed with Anne Boleyn? Is a question that I'm often asked in YouTube comments and on social media, and it's always one that I quite like to answer. Sometimes it's a perfectly innocent question. The person wants to know why I find this 16th century queen consort so very interesting when there are lots of fascinating historical characters. What is it about Anne that made you start your website and your YouTube channel? What is it about Anne that made you write your books, etc., etc.? They really want to know. But often the question is, why are you so obsessed with Anne Boleyn when she's nothing but a home-wrecking usurper? Why are you so obsessed with Anne Boleyn when she caused the deaths of Sir Thomas More, Bishop Fisher, Cardinal Wolsey, etc., etc., and others in the same vein? And they use obsessed in a kind of derogatory way. Hey-ho, my general answer to that one is that they're giving a 16th century woman far too much power and taking power away from a 16th century monarch. But I digress. Today, I want to share why I find Anne Boleyn so fascinating, why I find her just as fascinating, and perhaps more so today, than when I started the Anne Boleyn Files in February 2009. There are so very many reasons why, but I'd just like to point out that just because I find Anne so very fascinating, it doesn't mean I'm Team Anne against the other wives. I find them all interesting in different ways, and I love Tudor history as a whole. But I keep returning to Anne. Now I'm going to do a bit of a brain dump here, and I'll probably think of even more reasons why as soon as I've stopped filming. I'm also not going to go into too much detail as we'd be here for hours, but here goes. First and foremost, it's the drama and tragedy of her story that calls out to me through the centuries. She rose so very quickly from maid of honour to king's other woman to queen consort, and then just had 3 years as a queen. Then she was brought down in under a month, becoming the first Queen of England to be executed. Her downfall sent shockwaves through Europe, and she suffered a huge miscarriage of justice. She was executed on false charges. The indictments drawn up against her make no sense, but it didn't matter. She had no chance of justice. Her story is a remarkable one. It's the stuff of compelling fiction. Secondly, I feel that she was just very different from her contemporaries. Her finishing in the Renaissance courts of Margaret of Austria and in France made her a Renaissance woman. She had opportunities that not many girls of her station could enjoy. She had a certain je ne sais quoi that made her stand out when she arrived at Henry VIII's court in 1522. A king of England changed the course of history to possess her. Thirdly, her role in the English Reformation. She was a catalyst of the Reformation in that Henry VIII's obsession with her led to him breaking with Rome and becoming supreme head of the church in England. But she was also so much more than a catalyst. She was a patron of reform. She acted as a patron to evangelical men in the church and at court. Men who would become important later in Henry VIII's reign, in Edward VI's reign, and in her daughter Elizabeth I's reign. Fourthly, her personality. Now, it's hard to assess her personality as we're depending on what other people said about her, and many of those were her enemies. But the Anne Boleyn who jumps out at me from the primary sources is a woman who was highly intelligent, witty, quick-thinking, sophisticated, dignified, loyal, stubborn, hot-tempered and quite rash with her words, and someone who had a true personal faith and wanted to make a difference to the world in which she lived. I'm often accused online of portraying Anne as some kind of saint or angel, but I certainly don't see her that way. Like all of us, she was flawed, and it's those flaws that make her so very interesting. Fifthly, her faith. I love delving into the history of the Reformation, exploring all the religious ideas of that period, that time of huge change and challenges to doctrines that had held firm for centuries. So I'm fascinated with this side of Anne. She wasn't a Protestant, but she wasn't a conservative Catholic. She'd been influenced by the beliefs of people around her in France, by what she'd heard and read there. She was embracing evangelical ideas and believed that the church needed reform. We'll never know what she believed in her heart and exactly how far along the path to what we call Protestantism she was. That's what I find so very interesting. And I love reading the works that she read, exploring the ideas of scholars and theologians whose works she read and enjoyed. Sixthly, I find it fascinating just how she reaches out through the ages to people today. I've spoken to many people whose love of history was sparked off by reading about Anne Boleyn, by seeing Anne of the Thousand Days or the other Boleyn girl. Anne hooked them, and then they got interested in Tudor history as a whole. And then she's inspired works of art, books, jewellery and craft, all sorts. Her story has inspired so many and so much. Seventhly, if that's even a word, I love how she sparks so much debate, how divisive she is even today, the passion she stirs in people. I mean, you can't mention Anne Boleyn without people showing just how much they love her or just how much they hate her. I love history when it makes people passionate. As I say, I'll think of even more reasons as soon as I stop recording. So those are just a few reasons why I find Anne Boleyn such an interesting historical person, and one who's very much taken over my life. But there are worse things I could be interested in. But what about you? Are you fascinated by Anne Boleyn? If so, why? Or are you one of those who feels she gets far too much attention and you don't understand it at all? Please do share your opinions and feelings in the comments section. And if you find Tudor history interesting, please do subscribe to my channel and hit like on this video. I can promise you lots of Tudor history goodies. I'll see you very soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.